Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Koshi Dhingra, founder and CEO of the talkSTEM nonprofit organization. I'm delighted to be here today for our lunchtime live stream with Marion Jackson, principal of a exciting new school that we're going to be talking about soon that opens this fall. We're here today celebrating Her STEM Lens, a social media movement and a virtual exhibition series that launched February 11th, which was the International Day of Girls and Women in Science, and will end this month on May 31st. Her STEM Lens is powered by Comerica Bank and community partners, including NEPRIS. Visit talkstem.org to learn more and to access the exhibition freely. My guest today, Marion Jackson, has served families of Dallas ISD as a teacher, assistant principal, and principal. She has a track record of closing student performance gaps and increasing academic achievement in reading, math, and science as measured by the Texas Education Agency standards. So Marion, I could go on about this, but I don't want to eat in too much of your time. You're obviously extremely accomplished as an educator, and I'm delighted to have you today. Why don't we kick off by sharing a couple of the Her STEM Lens images that you shared with us, and you can tell us a little bit more about the images. Here's one.
Yes, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me this afternoon. I'm delighted about this opportunity. And so when I look at these photos, I think the first one you had there was just a picture of just some dirt. I was kind of doing like a photo journal for my sister who was building a home over in the Lake Worth area. And at the time I was just snapping photos. But when I start to look at those photos, when I was charged to, maybe bring up a couple of photos that I could share concerning my STEM lens, I start to think about all the many questions that are in our day-to-day lives that are attached to STEM that we don't even think about. And so when I look at this picture, I start to think about questions like, how do you determine the amount of dirt that's needed when you're starting to build a new home? And, does that dirt need to be hard or soft, or where does that dirt come from? Do you need a certain level of or a certain height to lay the foundation? And so all of these questions start running through my head when I start to look at just some of the photos that I've captured in my phone. And so it's important to step back and see how STEM is really in our everyday lives. And sometimes we don't even think about these type of things when we're talking about STEM. And so
absolutely. I love the fact that you pick something and then you lay it on all these other questions that, of course, connect with the question. And as human beings, we do this all the time, right? So tell us about this next picture.
And so this next picture is a picture of my son. In the beginning, I'll confess that I was just taking a picture of him having fun at a ski resort that we visited over spring break. But when I start to look at it through a STEM lens, I start to wonder, how many inches of snow do ski resorts need to be able to function at their full capacity? Or, is there a level of snow that is on a particular mountain that's needed for skiers to be able to ski successfully? And so those are just a number of things that I think about when I use my STEM lens, just looking at through some of the pictures that I've captured throughout the years on my phone.
I love the way that you said that when I looked at that picture through my STEM lens, because of course the movement for Her STEM Lens and then also STEM Lens, which is across all genders, is to do just that. No matter whether you consider yourself, to be an A student at math or a rocket scientist or not, we all as human beings have this lens through which we can look at anything. And that's really what this movement is to celebrate. Does it mean that that's the only way we look at things? No, when you were looking at your son playing in the snow, I'm sure you were looking at it through the lens of a parent. You were looking at it through a lens of somebody enjoying vacation time and free time. So as human beings, we're complex. We have the gift of looking at things through a variety of lenses. And what Her STEM Lens is just as girls and women to celebrate this one lens, and to put a name to it. And the backbone of it, as you just illustrated so beautifully, is it's about our questions, whether or not we're able to in the moment answer the question. So thank you so much for playing the HerSTEM Lens game with me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
So you've been a campus principal at an elementary school in Dallas ISD for a good number of years, and are now preparing for the exciting work of being a founding principal of the West Dallas STEM School. It's kind of a systems engineering or architectural project, I'm sure, and we only have 10 minutes or so to discuss, so we're only going to peel the very teeny weeny part of the top layer. I hope to have many long discussions with you down the road. What are your thoughts? Since it's the month of May, I thought I wanted to spend a little bit of time focusing on mental health, since the month of May is kind of a time to also put the spotlight on this important issue, which is an important issue regardless, but certainly after the year that we've all been through, mental health, mindfulness, and so forth become, I think, even more important to all of us.
Yes.
Is this topic something you feel is important at schools? And if so, how does one appropriately put the spotlight on it? What's been your experience, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's very, very important. And I think Dallas ISD has done a great job of, kind of shining that spotlight on our students as far as their social, emotional health. But I think it is equally as important. And this is one of the things that makes West Dallas STEM School so unique, that we actually shine that light for our adults as well. And so when we talk about creating a space where adults, teachers, staff members, the adults in the building are safe to kind of express themselves and to say, hey, my mental health is just as important as my physical health, and being okay with that. And me as the principal creating an environment where we, just kind of ground ourselves in, that our mental health is just as important, and creating that space that the adults in the building will need to be able to engage in those conversations. I think another thing that makes West Dallas STEM School unique is we've partnered with some nonprofits in the Dallas area, and some of them focus on the mental and health and well-being of adults, and then having them be a part of our day-to-day instruction housed in our building. I think it's going to really be impactful in the way we approach mental health for teachers and students.
No, that's fantastic. And I love the way you said physical as well as mental health. And they're both, it just struck me while you were speaking, with the term STEM being part of the name of the school. These are also STEM topics. I think that sometimes we forget that STEM is certainly about, all of those discrete topics that we're accustomed to thinking about, whether it's, electricity or physiology, but it's also about these complex systems, which is what a school is. And mental health, I mean, the science of our mental well-being is an exciting field in neuroscience, and definitely very much connected to this topic of mental health. So, so I love the fact that you're including the community, the nonprofits that serve these families beyond the academic day, but kind of they have a place at the table. I think that kind of segues to my next question. I was interested in hearing more about the new school. I know that the West Dallas STEM School is the product of over 3 years of a collaboration between the SMU Simmons College of Education Human Development, the Toyota USA Foundation, Dallas ISD, and the West Dallas community. I mean, it just sounds amazing. Tell us a little bit, I know we don't have much time, but tell us a little bit about what makes it unique, and how the fact that it's in West Dallas is part of the flavor of the school. That's really an important, not an add-on, but an important central element.
Yeah, thanks for asking. We've created this unique partnership that is going to really empower the students and families in West Dallas, and serve as an ally in the West Dallas community, offering events and programs and opportunities for children and families to improve their quality of life. And so when we think about West Dallas and some of the areas that have been, maybe traditionally underserved, we want our parents and our community to feel like this is their school. And I think this is an opportunity for Dallas ISD and all of the partners to really embrace that whole school community concept where our school is a community school and we have active and supportive systems and that are readily available for our students, teachers, and the parents that we serve so that they can really start to own what the quality of life for them and their children will look like going forward. They have an active voice in what that looks like and what is it that they want for their students. And so I think, again, mentioning having those wraparound services be a part of that work and be a part of the school, meeting those needs of our students and families right in the moment, and having that all under one house is really going to be a game changer for the West Dallas community.
That's fantastic. You know, I often say back when I used to, one of my previous hats was a teacher education professor. And I used to tell my young teachers, you know, maybe you said something similar to some of the teachers, you know, you worked with at your previous schools, that even though in the classroom, you often feel like you're the lone adult and then, you know, you're there with the students, whatever age you're working with.
Yeah.
And I'm like, imagine the invisible people who are equally as important, if not sometimes more important forces as you and the students, whether it's certainly the families, the parents, but also all of the people who shape and constrain the work that you do, whether they're policymakers, textbook publishers, you know, testing kind of people, and understand that what you're doing in the classroom is really kind of shaped and influenced, and you in turn influence them. There's this really interesting set of forces at play. And the classroom just happens to be the space that you're in that moment. And what I love about what you said was this school is really going to make an effort to make some of that invisible forces visible.
Yes.
You know, the community members who are so important in the kids' lives are actually going to be maybe visible to the kids.
Yes.
Even. Maybe they'll see them on campus.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things we'll have, like the open door policy where parents can actually come in and be a part of what their students' academic day looks like, so that they can take that and go outside of those four walls and really kind of mimic what we're doing. And we're all on the same page to create the best learning environment as we can for our students. I
just love that. So that we're not even, often there's this game that schools play, and I've been in education for a long time, so I've been part of the game. But, you know, it's almost like, okay, let's pretend this is your world right now for whatever, 7-8 hours that you're here, and we'll just block everything else out.
Right.
And here's your homework, and here's what you have to do, and now go. I have no idea what you're going to do now. But, and it's unrealistic and totally not the case, because of course, life is much more complex and thankfully interesting than that. Students carry with them who they are and the forces that shape them and their relationships to their home and community, et cetera. And I guess I'm so excited because it's something that in my career, we've been talking about a lot in the work that I do. You're really kind of celebrating the ecosystem that the student is a part of. Yes. And you're not assuming that every student and every family has exactly the same relationship with their community. We're all different. Absolutely. So it's going to be so fascinating and interesting to see how everything evolves. I'm sure you're super excited. When does school start? School starts fall of 2021. We are headed back in full session with our 7th and 8th grade students. And you said something that really kind of caught my attention about students' experiences being brought into the school. You know, sometimes I tell teachers all the time, most of the time it's about the home and not the work. And so when we start to build these relationships with our students, we start to really experience what they're going through, and that helps to meet, their social and emotional needs throughout the school day. You combine that with high academic expectations, and you are creating students. They're going to go out there and take this world by force, and we're going to equip them at West Dallas STEM School with the resources to do just that. So I just want to spend a couple of minutes talking about this term STEM. So you know this better than me. The term STEM was coined by the National Science Foundation about 20 years ago in an effort to break down the silos between science, technology, engineering, and math, particularly when it came to spaces like K-12 education. However, in my experience, the term STEM today is often defined by many people as very rigid and narrow. There's a lot of stereotyping and oversimplifying. You're either a STEM person or you're not a STEM person, by both adults and children, quite frankly.
Yeah.
What would you want your students, teachers, families in the West Dallas STEM School to think of when they hear this term STEM?
I want them to think of a different way that students can learn, allowing their creativity to really surface and think about problem solving in a more innovative way. And so I think when we start to approach STEM that way, we can kind of break the stigma out there of what a STEM person really is or what a STEM person does. That we just start to create spaces and opportunities for students to ask questions and to be inquisitive and to want to know the why behind the why. And I think when we phrase it that way and we coin it that way, we kind of take the stigma away from the word STEM or the acronym STEM. And then we look at it through a different way of learning, of teaching, of planning together, where students, this becomes their norm. This becomes their normal way of thinking and learning and growing. And they start to realize all the different ways that STEM is embedded in their everyday lives. And so they don't see it in silo, but they see it in connection with what they're already doing and what they're already experiencing. And so we're trying to create that environment at West Dallas STEM School so that our kids and our staff can do just that.
Kind of like you did when you watched your son play in the snow on your spring break.
Yeah.
Yes, taking those moments and then maybe saying, well, you had fun in the playground. I could see this happening.
Yes.
And now that was fantastic. And you can just enjoy that. By the way, when you were on the seesaw, did any STEM principal come in mind, or on the swing or on the slide, and having them take a second look and kind of celebrating their own STEM mindsets that continue to grow and expand. That's a wonderful way to end, because I love the fact that we connected with your picture. And I am delighted to have this time with you. Thank you so much for spending the time. I know you're extremely busy, but I would love to continue to hear about how things unfold in this exciting new school and community space that you are a key force in building and creating. So thank you so much for your work.
And thank you so much for having me this afternoon. I look forward to our continued conversations.
Same here. Thank you.